MTD CNC, bringing you the latest engineering news, reviews, events and special offers via video media.
So Craig, this is an Oxy Fuel machine here from Kerf Developments. Can you tell me about this particular model?
This model, Oxy Fuel machine, it can have multiple heads. It can be any width to suit customers' requirements, and it can be any length.
Okay, now I'm going to put myself in place of an engineer who doesn't know much about this sort of technology or what Oxy Fuel can do. Can you talk us through what it would actually do for a manufacturing company?
This process can be used from anything from 3mm right the way through to 600mm thick, cut with Oxy Fuel.
Okay, and we've got examples of parts here that would be done on this machine. We'll come back to those. If I just explore for this stage the extraction or the table that we've got here,
Yep.
This is modular and can be built to any size, depending on the component, as you've said, or the size of the plate, but it's not actually attached to the cross rail or the sides.
No, the idea behind it is that when you're loading a plate and you drop on, or you stack a truck driver drops a huge plate on there, there's no shock loadings going through any of the frame. Totally independent.
Okay. And when we look at Oxy Fuel, there's various different types of cutting. You can do plasma cutting, laser cutting. What sort of application would you use an Oxy Fuel machine on?
It can be a small fabricator who's got one Oxy Fuel machine and he just needs to cut a range of materials. It can be people that need to cut from, say, 30mm up to 150mm. And for those processes, you could use water jet. Plasma's getting near the top of its piercing ability.
Well, we'll come on to plasma in a minute, but this particular machine here, we've got two heads.
Yes.
So you can have more than that, can you? Or is it?
You can have as many as you feel you need.
So why would you have two or why would you have three? Would that mean you've got three of the same plate or the same part on the table that you're trying to do the same operation on?
Yeah, typically a machine of this size you would go with 4 or 5 heads. And the idea is that by doing so, as it moves along the bed of the machine, you're cutting 5 components in one go.
Okay, so you're essentially improving production by doing more than one component at once. So we've got a control here for the machine. What functionality does this provide and how does it work?
In a production environment, you would tend to program the parts offline. So you'd use a CAM package linked to some form of CAD system, do all your nesting offline, and then transfer onto the controller. This particular controller also has a series of parametric shapes. So if you need a quick one-off of a base plate or a disc or a ring or whatever, you can just put all the parametric sizes into the controller and then just cut the one off.
So it's very simple to use?
Yes.
What sort of training would it take somebody to?
Typically an hour or so.
Oh really, that's straightforward. So let's say, for example, Craig, you've got two types of companies that would buy this machine. You've got one that already have this type of technology and use it regularly, or new users. If you were a new user, do Kerf offer any features and functions that would assist?
Yeah, I mean on this machine, for example, you've got an automatic height sensor.
Right.
So if the plate's been put on the machine at an angle, as the bed moves up and down the machine, then the height will be set automatically. So that'll maintain the cut quality.
Okay.
And it's also got an option there for automatic ignition. So that's all done from the control unit. They don't, on a big machine, you don't have to come across an individual light every torch.
Right, okay, which is like you had to do in the old days, I remember it well.
Absolutely.
You have also mentioned another point about this table here. This is a luxury, is it, in the Oxy Fuel Cutting arena?
Yes. If you were to install this inside a factory environment, it would be like the Rolls-Royce of cutting machines.
Right.
People tend to fabricate their own tables to suit their own applications.
So you could just buy the cross rail and attach it yourself to what we see here as the floor, essentially.
Yeah,
then
either Kerf could supply you with cutting tables, or people tend to be fabricators and they would make their own.
And what about fume extraction and things like that? Again, is that another luxury?
It is for Oxy Fuel. It's certainly not for plasma. It's mandatory really for plasma.
And what about, importantly, costs? Is there anywhere we can start and where it finishes?
Realistically, it can start at about £15,000 and it can go upwards to 70, 75, maybe £80,000 for some of the bigger machines.
And that would generally depend on the size of the machine and the amount of heads that you have?
It can be the size of the machine, the number of heads, or the capability of one of the heads. For example, we've just sold a machine which can pierce through 450 mil, and the customer believes it's got enough power to probably pierce 600 mil.
Wow.
And that's with a gas cutting machine.
Wow. So that's a good point. Let's talk about some parts. So we've got two components here. Let's have a look at these. These are typical examples of what's been done on this machine. So this is one example, Craig. Can you talk us through what's been, how this has been cut?
This is the part that we asked one of our customers to supply for us for the Mac show. And it highlights what you can achieve with Oxy Fuel Cutting, but equally, I can't think of any other process how you would make that other than machine it.
Right. So what have they done? How have they gone about it?
They've taken this, which is probably about 100 mil thick, as a billet of material. They've profiled around the outside. Then when it's cooled down, they've picked it up, mounted it vertically, and then profiled around the outside and put the hole in as well.
Okay.
That couldn't have been done with any other process.
So that is a prime example of a particular part that you need to do on this type of machine.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the second part we got there?
Traditional standard Oxy Fuel type work.
Right.
It can be base plates, it can be parts for a press tool.
And that gives us a good example there with the sort of surface finishes you can expect, or the cut quality, and also...
I mean, that's as it comes off the machine.
Right. And then internally, where we've got the diameters or the holes there, you can see what you can expect in terms of call it the concentricity or whatever you want to call it, the hole. Okay. All right, that's brilliant. Well, that's been a really good insight into the Oxy Fuel side. Thank you very much, Craig.
For more videos, products and news, go to mtdcnc.com or follow MTD Online on Twitter.